Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Makers Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, and today with me, I have an amazing lady that I've had the privilege of, I think it's like 2 years now that I've known you, Patrice. Patrice Porter is my guest today. I'm very honored to have her here. Thank you, Patrice, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here today. I've loved how you show up, and you are always there in many different ways to help out in any way that you can. So I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you to our community so that people learn more about you and what you do. But before we get to that, can you tell us a little bit more about who you are and how you got involved in doing what you do? And then we'll go from there.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. I'm delighted to be a part of this community, your community, and being interviewed for the Experts Cafe. Uh, well, how I got started and my background, what it follows, I follow my passions, I should say that, and I've got a couple of them, and one of them is gardening. That's something that served me very, very well, and I'm constantly learning. I've trained under like master gardeners, and I was always talking with the old timers, and I used to build had a blog site, like just curating anything about gardening, and I loved like growing your own food. And that especially is where it came in to serve me very well, that I have that ability, and I'll never have to go hungry. I can always grow something. And and I had actually started a business. I'm very much a nature lover too, and had started a business growing coniferous seedlings for reforestation, taking that love of growing. But also, my other passion is human potential. And especially after having worked for 15 years as an educational associate, working with young kids and having them under my care, like hundreds of kids under my care. And I felt it was a real privilege to have them under my care at that young age. And I could see that potential in them. And I knew if you have someone believe in you, in that potential, and believe in you, then it brings something out of you. And so I would nurture that potential that I saw in the kids, and get to watch them blossom. And so that's and being in that position, like, we used to set up what we called invitations, and it was all about tweaking the kids' interests. And then we would scaffold them to new levels. And, again, with that, whatever they're capable of. And I used to call it opening new worlds. And I especially loved opening that world of gardening to kids and giving them that life skill of being able to grow their own food and connect with nature. And I found that was a really big thing these days, where people were there's so much time in cyberspace, and quite a disconnect, really.
So actually,
And
I wanted to talk about that because in this day and age where people are getting busier and busier, and life is getting more hectic, and people are we're getting more urbanization, and then we end up with this virtual world, and people are, like you said, are constantly inside. It's like everything that we are talking about is going in that direction. You are somebody that is kind of a trend breaker, for if I could figure it out, or basically a person that is going against that, meaning that you're saying, hey, slow it down. Instead of going to the grocery store and the processing and all that stuff, let's connect with our food. Let's connect with the land. Let's go ahead and be away from the virtual and into the real. So I'm assuming that there are some serious challenges getting this message across. So what are the typical things that you're hearing from people when they're like, Yeah, that sounds really good. How do I have
Yeah.
that? How do I fit that into my daily life?
Well, the one thing is that, as I say, I call it opening worlds, and with that disconnect and trying to, and like when I'm working with kids, that's a natural connection. You know, gardening and working in the earth and food, we're being involved with the food. It's a natural connection, but it's the teenagers that gets a little bit more. It's something like you've got to find something that's it's kind of cool for them to tweak their interests. Like as I mentioned before, it's all about tweaking their interests, get them involved, and then you can take them to new levels. And so like with the teens, I find if you can grow something really cool, uh, uh, giant vegetables, or and I also found it's something, it gives them something to talk about, if they're growing something cool. And plus, a lot of the youth really like they have these concerns about the environment. And actually, they're often very much overwhelmed, often by the climate crisis, climate environmental crisis. And if you get them involved with the gardening, that's a way that they can be doing something for the environment. You get them composting, developing their own soil, so the waste aren't going into landfill. The food isn't being traveled miles and miles and miles. It's right there in your backyard. Uh, and that connection with nature. And I found like if you can instill that love of nature in the kids, and gardening, it's a great way. It's safe. Parents are often uh they're leery to let their kids go out and explore in nature. And it's that's not how I grew up. We spend hours out in the outdoors. And but this is like a safe little spot where they can explore and connect. But if you can instill that love of nature, and then I find if they can let, instead of getting overwhelmed and just holding up plaques or doing whatever, they can actually let that love that they feel direct their actions. And so that it can evolve from tending your little piece of earth as you're planting into a more broader concept of your local environment. If you see an issue going on, I was going to go off on another avenue. We're started an eco museum in our neighborhood. It's a museum without walls, and it's a way of preserving our forest community.
Oh,
But it's actions like that, and if you see someone polluting, you'll go clean up, the waterways or something. But it's that love of nature. And then addressing again like our busy lifestyles, like with the parents, like that's often I find, well, I have no time. I can't. I it's just going to be one more thing on my plate. And to me, it's like, well, how much time do you actually give yourself permission to take for that? And you take that time, whether it's 15 minutes, 3 times a week or whatever. And that's enough that you can grow some herbs on your windowsill, and maybe get one little pot. I like growing like a salad bowl. So it's just a container that has enough for your salad pickings right in one thing. And then you start there, start small, get involved. And also if you can have it, so you develop that interest. And that's especially with the kids. Like I always ask them, like, what type of garden would you like to have? And so that it's something that they're interested in, and not just a chore.
right.
And if especially if you giving the kids lots of time to explore out there, and being involved in every process of it, then then and also one more thing, so that it's not a chore, it's letting the kids taste that fresh garden food, whether it's from the farmer's market, or maybe you're lucky enough to have some neighbors that will share some garden goodies.
Patrice, what you
They'll
just
find
mentioned is important in the sense that earlier on you mentioned instilling that love of nature, love of learning. We also talked about making sure that it's not a chore, also making sure that it piques their interest, right? So this is really interesting because because it happened to me with my kids, that when you introduce something like a screen, the same kid that just 3 months ago didn't have the screen and would basically occupy themselves for a whole afternoon. Now, all of a sudden, if you take the screen away, they don't know anything about themselves. They don't know where to begin or how to go ahead and find out what they're interested in. So piquing that interest. And at the same time, I have seen the same child get so interested about something that with their friends diligently working on this project for 10 hours 4 days straight, dragging parents across the country to make sure this thing gets done, and they can't wake up to go the next day and do the same thing over again. So I can see that they have the energy, and if you can pique the interest, that's how far it can go. How do you go about and expose them to some of this? Because also, depending on who you're talking to, if you're talking about, kids that are like 6 to 12 years of age, you can make a suggestion or make a social activity out of it, and they're happy to go along. By the same token, if you get a teenager and say, let's do this, automatically it's like, no, I don't want to do that. So how do you go about this and pique their interest?
Okay, well, it goes back to that, finding out the one question: what type of garden do you want to have? Okay. And like there's different people, like some people, they might um uh just want a quiet solitude area. There might be readers, and they might be happy like having like a sunflower fort or something where they can just hang out there. But that, like the sunflowers, that's creating a nutritional snack.
Mhm.
It gives them a beauty. You're creating the beauty. You can feed the birds with it, and you can make a cool little fort so they can hang out there. But
Okay.
again, like you're letting them, you're introducing these ideas, or like with the teenagers, something that's really cool and unique, and that like there's these type of squashes that are like super super long, and it's something that nobody else has seen, and then it gets the conversations going, so then that gives them something to talk about with their friends. And also, like kids and food, that's something, I mean, if you I found that when I was we took some grade 6 kids out for it was supposed to be a walk in the forest, and all they wanted to do, like they kept saying, well, when are we going back? They just wanted to get back on their phones and on their devices. And to me it was so sad, because like I loved that when I got the opportunity to go out exploring in the forest. I mean, that was, to me, was just wonderful. And to like, they wouldn't pay attention to anything. It was just, when are we going back? I want to get back to my game. I want to, and so we're walking along, and then I found some of the wild edibles out there, and I started pointing that out, and then that got their interest. And same, growing kids, I mean, they need lots of good food, so like things that they like to eat, and that's another way of getting them involved. If they know that they're going to grow some lush strawberries that they just love, then they're more willing to put that effort in.
Hmm.
So as I say, like take them out to the farmer's market and let them taste some of that fresh uh, garden food or locally grown, and find out what they want to grow,
I like
and
that.
that they'd be willing to put that effort in.
Yeah, actually, what I think is really key about what you do is the fact that no matter how amazing games are for the kids, what happens is we're wired, built in for environment, for nature, right? So once you get going in that path, it's a natural process that you get more engaged with it. That's number one. Number two, no matter how engaging a game is, and it does give you free stimulation with no effort put into it, basically, that's what they're designed to do, and that's how it rewards your brain. Um, when it comes to food, it trumps game,
Oh,
meaning that
yeah,
even the most game addicted child would go ahead and when they're hungry, put that game down and go look for something to eat. So these are
yeah.
ways that you can always bypass and get in the way of those screens and those habits that is literally taking time out of their development, taking time out of their exploration of the world. And I always tell my kids, I say, there's nothing wrong with accessing the internet or getting on the,
Oh,
but there's a purpose for it, and when you don't
yeah,
use it for that purpose, then it's just like science. You can use the science for good or for evil, and
yeah.
it's up to us to make that conscious choice, basically. And this is one of those cases. How do you wish to spend your time? And many of the stuff that you do is natural. It happens to be almost instinctive, meaning that it actually has a chance of overcoming screens, basically. So that part is really cool. Patrice, I know our time is limited. What would be the one tip that you have for our audience members that are watching this that they could implement in their family so they would have a better relationship, a happier family life at home?
Well, I encourage the families to start a family nature based project. And I encourage that to be gardening just because, all the fabulous things and it's my passion, whatever. But any type of family nature based project, whether it's exploring just in your neighborhood and finding out like little bits of wilderness or what wild edibles are growing right in your neighborhood, and or camping or and make that like a family-based nature project for that bonding, getting we all need to get out of cyberspace, off our devices and spend some time in the natural world. So
I love it.
that would be my recommendation there.
And before our audience members think that, oh, here's one more thing I got to do as if it's a chore, I know that Patrice has lots and lots of support and ways that can stimulate your interest and your curiosity and your engagement for the family and yourselves. So I definitely want to make sure that you guys get connected. Patrice, what's a good way of people connecting to you?
Well, the simplest way, if you go to thegardeninggrandma.com, and there's a tab you can book a chat. I'd be happy to talk to anyone. I love talking about gardening and getting folks involved in that way. And also, while you're there, pick up a copy of the Gardening with Kids playbook.
Awesome. Cool. Love it. Thank you. Guys, she actually has provided a whole host of things, and I will be sharing that in the description. So take a minute and go click on the description of this video, and you will see tons of links and stuff. She's very heart-centered. And Patrice, I'm really privileged to have you in our community. Check it out. Also, we always encourage this because it's important to role model the behavior to the kids that we don't have to have all the answers, and the world is not a big bad world, that there are people out there that are interested in helping you and supporting you. And it's just a matter of connecting. And this is a great way for us to role model that behavior, for you guys to connect to Patrice. And if you haven't already done so, make sure that you connect with us by clicking subscribe on the channel so that you get updated on all the experts that come here, sharing their gifts and their messages with you, and opening your view of the world in ways that you didn't think existed. So it's really, really important for us to have that global perspective. So Patrice, I really appreciate you taking time and being here today and kind of discovering, having this lighthearted conversation. I know you have tons of stuff, so guys, definitely check her out. And I look forward to future collaborations. Thank you guys for being here. Any final words before we finish this session?
More encouraging folks to get involved in your community there, Dr. L, and get out in nature, get out of cyberspace and back into the natural world. And thank you very much for this opportunity to speak with you and share with your audience.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Until next time, guys. Cheers.